Go ahead and make sure you're subscribed. Wow,
Hi,
all over the world.
Hi, there's awesome.
Subscribe. Bay Area, Richmond, Virginia, Portugal, Florida, Minneapolis, LA. Wow. All over the world, international.
Wow.
All right. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate everybody. We are going to go ahead and jump into everything. Feel free to keep the chat jumping, but make sure to keep some promo to a minimum. We'll make sure you drop your @ and connect with everybody, but just make sure to use the Q&A for any questions you have for the panelists so that we can filter that out from the chat. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Music Marketing with Amethyst Collab. My name is Olivia. I'm the CEO of Amethyst and the founder of Amethyst. And I'm super excited to have all 243 people here with us today. That's crazy. That's definitely our biggest intro attendance, which is exciting. Thank you guys so much for being here on a work/school night with us. And we're gonna go ahead and introduce our panelists. So panelists, can you give us a quick introduction to who you are and what you do? And let's start with Tamara.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tamara May, and I do creative marketing at 300 Entertainment. I work across roster on a bunch of different artists like Mary J. Blige, Megan Thee Stallion, Young Thug, Gunna, pretty much all of YSL Records. I do 300 branding. I work on artists like White Rose Moxie and Kaylin Koss, and pretty much I'm really grateful to have such a diverse roster of artists, that I get to work with. I've been an intern at 300. I started in 2018, and I started in digital marketing, and made a space for myself in what I do today, which is the more creative side of that. And I'm just so grateful for all the mentorship I got from the women around me at 300 and excited to be here today among these amazing women. I can't hold my excitement. This is awesome.
Thank you, Tamara. Gabby, why don't you go ahead?
Hey everyone, my name is Gabriella, but also go by Gabby, and I was born and raised in New York, and I currently live in Brooklyn, and I work at RCA Records in the digital marketing department, specifically for hip hop and R&B artists like Jasmine Sullivan, Lotto, Nardo Wick, and a ton of other great artists that I work with. I started at RCA in the radio urban promotions department back in 2019, and then moved over to digital in 2021. So super excited. I also went to school in American University where Olivia and I met. So got to shout out AU. So
yes,
super excited to be here.
University alumni. If anyone is from AU, type it in the chat. We would love to see you. Yes, Gabby and I met in a music industry program at AU. So it's great to have you here, Gabby, to see how far we've come since then. Michelle, why don't you go ahead?
Hi guys, I'm Michelle from New York. Also, I am a hip hop and R&B marketing manager at Sony Music on their catalog division, Legacy Recordings. So I work on all of the legacy acts like Destiny's Child, SWV, Wu-Tang Clan. We also have a hip hop and R&B catalog platform called This Is Certified that I manage, where we do all of Sony's hip hop and R&B legacy acts. I get to work with Gabby a little bit on her artists as well. And most recently, I also am the catalog marketing lead for all of Epic Records. So I get to work on catalog for like DJ Khaled, Future, 21 Savage. So definitely do a lot.
Amazing. Thank you, Michelle. Junae, why don't you go?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Junae Brown. I'm CEO and founder of Brown Perfection Agency. We are a marketing agency that focuses primarily on digital content strategy, brand partnerships, influencer marketing, some experiential, you name it. We work with, on the creative side, a lot of artists, signed and unsigned, music companies, influencers, media personalities, public figures, all that jazz. On the other side, we work a lot with small and emerging businesses, but also a lot of tech companies, apps, a lot of larger corporations in terms of partnerships and campaigns, and really just connecting that bridge between culture and corporate authentically. Before starting Brown Perfection, we're turning 6 in June. Before starting the agency, I worked at Sony Music as well, at Columbia Records and RCA Records, and did a little time at CBS as well. And I'm super happy to be here with Amethyst Collab. Excuse me.
Thank you, Junae. Amazing. Makeda, why don't you go ahead?
Hi guys, I'm Makeda. I'm a PM at Alamo Records. I'm from Virginia and I moved to New York in 2015 for college. I went to St. John's, and yeah, here I am now.
Awesome. Helen, saw you?
Hi, I'm Helen Showalter. I am the VP of a company called CrowdSurf. We've been doing digital marketing and music for like over a decade. And I'm really, really excited to be here with this group of people. I'm probably the resident pop girly on the panel for sure. I think I'm also the only like LA girl, if I'm, yep. Well, so I'm representing West Coast over here.
Amazing. Thank you, Helen. And thank you to all of these amazing, accomplished women for being here with us tonight. We are going to jump right into the good stuff. So our first question, what is the single most important marketing tool that someone can use in 2022? And you guys can jump on into this one.
Your phone, Instagram. I feel like Instagram is the biggest tool that we have. Social media helps us reach people not only across the world, but like everywhere internationally, not just in the country. And there's so many different ways to utilize it and figure out ways to make it work for you, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on TikTok, whether you're on Instagram. You just got to find your niche and go crazy and someone will find you.
Yeah, just to add to what you said, Makeda, I think, yeah, the internet at large, right? Like it is the tool. It's your best form of transportation to get your stuff in front of the people who need to see it. And I'd say the other most important tool is data, right? Data is not the whole story though, let's be clear, but it definitely helps craft and tell the story. And so I think when you couple the actual like analytics along with the transportation tools, I think it makes things a lot easier because you're not just shooting in the dark and hoping that something sticks. You're more so like actually finding out who your target audience is and then building things that they would like or placing them in areas where they go to find things that they like. And I think that makes the marketing a lot more effective.
For me, probably organization and more specifically Asana. So as a creative, visually representing, the accountability of like what gets you from point A to B is so important. So, really being able to bridge the gap between the thoughts that are in your head and effectively, backed by data, put your marketing campaign out and just really see those steps is so important and invaluable.
Yeah, I would also tap in on like personalized content and creating that and making sure that people can see who you are as an artist rather than whatever brand you might partner with or other things that you have in place in terms of partnerships. I think just like hopping on a game if you like video games or chatting with your friend, like those kind of things will literally differentiate yourself from other artists because it's showing who you are as an artist and as a brand yourself rather than falling in line with what everybody else is doing. So that's like my biggest thing that I like to push for my artists, and you should push for yourself as well.
I don't know if this is a tool necessarily, but the thing that me and my boss, Cassie, who's one of our co-founders, who's incredible, have been talking about is thinking about what your goals are completely outside of social media and remember that you're using social media as a tool to make those things happen. Because the likes, they're great. The following number, it's great, but it's not going to if your goal is to go on tour and you're just, getting a lot of engagement, but maybe not a lot of followers, or you're not, taking that extra step, you're losing out. So like those goals really have to inform what you're doing. And I think another really important tool to use online is forgiveness, both for yourself and for others. I think we have a lot of expectations about the way we need to exist on the internet. And the only way that my artists have ever really broken through that is by letting it go.
Yeah. And I would definitely go back to the data point because I feel like data is like a big thing for you to really even like know your fan. Like, what do they like outside of music? Like, where do they, consume music? Like, how do they discover things? So like, if you're not like, tapping really into that data, like you can't really, be as creative as you want until you really understand and know your fan.
Yeah, data is, I swear, it's the roadmap. Like literally, it's like a GPS sometimes. And I definitely agree with what you said, Helen, about forgiveness. Like I tell clients all the time, like, please don't overthink social media. Like at the root, I know like we're like in this huge content digital age, but like at the root of these platforms, it's supposed to be social. And so if you're an artist, your job is to be social to your fans and social to other people so they can become a fan. Social about your music. Like, that's it. Like, you don't have to overthink it. Like Gabriella said, like, listen, people do want to know what you have for breakfast. Like, it's really, you don't have to make it. You do want to have a plan and goals because, like you were saying, Helen, like, you want to have that ROI, right? You want it to lead somewhere. Otherwise, it's just a cool content thing. And like, that's not really the goal. The goal is, you know, something, streams, sales, shows, fans, something. And so you want it to be cohesive, but you got to find a balance between like that cohesive content strategy and also just enjoying yourself and being yourself, because there's a million artists that are kind of following a certain template that they think is going to take them to the next level. But if you notice, the artists that have blown up in the past, I'd say arguably 3 to 5 years, all have at least an inherent thread to their personality that's different. Whether we like it or not, whether it's controversial or not, they're themselves, and you can't deny that fact. And those fans, like, even if, you know, I love to use the example of like a Cardi B, right? Like, before Cardi had Bodak Yellow, before she had that moment, she definitely assembled Barty Gang. Like, there was already a group of core fans that were going pretty hard for her. And then, you know, she had the Love and Hip Hop thing going on. And so by the time Bodak Yellow happened, it exploded, like, but it was exploded on the outskirts. Like, that core fan base was already there, engaged. And so then it's like, you know, everybody's not going to be your number one fan, but if you can cultivate that community, then everyone else starts peeking in like, well, why is that crowd at the corner? What are they talking about? And then it's like, okay, I may not love it, but I like it and I'm aware of it. So
I think that thing that Cardi's really good at is that, and I think what the future of social media is that like, when your strategy is like post focused and like, oh, I'm going to get this many streams, I'm going to get that, that's still good. But at the end of the day, like, the people who are successful and are having, you know, long careers that generate, you know, generational wealth for people, I just lost my train of thought. You guys watched that happen. Can someone let me know what I was talking about?
You were talking about longevity. That's what I think where you were going.
Nope, forgot it. Next, someone else. Olivia.
No, I mean, I was gonna add in, like, obviously the data component of it is so crucial, and that's what, like, if you're in a label meeting, that's what we're talking about. How many TikTok creations we got? How many, like, the numbers? Like, what are the numbers? I've always wanted to have a mix of like, what are the numbers, but what is the culture impact as well? Like, I think sometimes we get so caught up in like, oh my God, well, it's viral, quote unquote viral, because it has X amount of creations. But then again, it's like, okay, well, do people even know who the artist is? Do people even like, are they looking for them like that? Like, those things, it has to be a full circle kind of thing, because just because you go viral and your song is popping off, great. Does that compute to what the streaming is looking like? You can go viral on TikTok and your streaming numbers might not be there. So like, you have to understand like, who is the artist? Are they tapping in? Are they duetting? Are they liking and commenting on, you know, different comments and stuff like that? Like, all of those things are crucial for building your brand and building your artistry. So data's there. We know that, we understand that, we look at it and we, you know, use that to move forward. But you have to also look at like, all right, what are people really talking about? I go to Twitter to see what people are talking about and how they really feel, because those numbers ain't gonna tell me what Twitter's telling me right now. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I remember
that.
I remembered what it was. Sorry. It was that Cardi's an entertainer. And I think the people who are getting talked about on Twitter, the people who are, you know, generating their own press cycles, who are using social media to make themselves talked about, those are people who see their jobs as being entertainers more than musicians.
Yeah, and they make themselves like so relatable with their fans as well. Like, you have to like not only entertain, but like you have to, you know, connect with them as well. So
yeah, I recently saw a meme that kind of is talking about what we're saying now, and it's the difference between someone that's influential and an influencer. And people that are influential are kind of people that are like us, and they show their lives, and it's like they make us want to be like them. And I think the more that artists are able to tap into that and show their everyday self and show that they're relatable, it works better than trying to be like, look what I have and you don't have. Like, this is what works for me. You can't get this. Nobody wants to tune into that or, you know, be a part of that truly.
I think people get tired of being sold to all the time. And like, yes, we got to have a couple CTAs, call to actions, and we want people to do what we need them to do. But again, like it has to feel more organic and more balanced. And to go back to the viral thing, it's like, everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people's goals are to go viral. But my first question is always like, okay, and then what? Do you have the branding infrastructure? So when you do go viral, because what happens when you see a viral something, you go and you click on the profile, you go and you see, is there more? Or I want to understand this, or what is this about? And like, do you have anything for them to stay attached to? Or are you just a viral moment? Are you just a funny thing that landed in the group chat and no more, moving on? Like if you don't have that set up, there is no reason for them to go and listen to your music, to explore, to follow you. Like it's not as like 1 + 1 = 2 as everyone thinks. Like you need to have a little bit in between there for people to like hold on to.
Right. And I always say, like, as an artist, you're your biggest fan. Like, yeah, people can be using your sound, cool, whatever. If you're not tapping into your own thing, like they can't lead, there's no way to lead back to you, like you just said. Like if I go on the sound itself on TikTok specifically, and I don't see the artist's posts with using that sound there, I'm just like, okay, well, why aren't you tapping into your own thing? Like I want to see you just as excited as I am to see your sound. So
I think also with artists, the way that I kind of like to approach it is tell people, like invite people on your journey, like give them so many opportunities to join your journey, whether or not they take it, they will eventually. Because unfortunately, sometimes it takes somebody else to like something for someone else to like something and so forth. So being able to, pinpoint who your super fans are and super serve them, especially when it comes to like the inviting on the journey thing that I'm saying is like, use your community to add to what Makeda said, like, get Discord, like what are those tools, like the literal physical tools that are taking the most engaged, super obsessed people and like put them all in a group chat and then give them exclusive content. Like that's the one. Like the super fans, the one that have listened to your song on the first day are the ones that you need to bring like, to the last day.
To piggyback off of what Tamara was saying, I think it's super important as an artist to do what you like. Don't force yourself to do stuff you don't like. Don't get on TikTok and dance if you're not a dancer. Don't get on Twitch and play games if you don't play games. Whatever it is that you're already into, just double down. So if you're into smoking, make TikToks every day of yourself smoking. If you're into gaming, get on Twitch and take your gaming seriously and, create a Discord and invite your fans into this place. But I think it's a lot easier when it's something that's natural to you and people gravitate to that more and it's much more relatable. And I think once you figured out, kind of your groove and everything, it translates a lot easier.
I want to mention this point in the chat as well. Yes, the super fans are willing to work when you do engage with them. I think that's so important to put out there as well.
In pop, that's the real tea. In pop, I have done, the Fifth Harmony's fans were the craziest I had ever worked with. They cyberbullied me nonstop for 2 years, but they showed the fuck up. Those, not even just girls, guys, gays, theys, the people who loved Fifth Harmony, I am genuinely terrified of. We hired some of them. I'm still scared of them. Our fucking marketing director, it was a like hardcore Fifth fan. And I've never seen a fan base before or after take so much ownership over their artists' careers. They were basically like, everyone step aside, we're going to handle this. They educated themselves about like how to make streaming playlists and like taught themselves the hacks to get things trending. It was crazy. And I was like, oh, that's why we hired them. I was like, oh, you are all going to do amazing work. Amazing.
Someone just said in the chat that Stan Twitter is the biggest asset the music industry has.
It's true.
If you give them room to assemble, the fans will assemble and go off. Like if you empower them to do it, now with parameters, because I know we've also seen stanism go very left, but if you monitor it, right, I think they can be an incredible asset to an artist. Also, Makeda, you were talking about how like if you like to like game, then like game. If you like to like cook, then cook. If you're an artist and you're just like, I just like to make music, because we get those too. And they're like, well, I don't really want to do all this stuff. Okay, well, why don't we see your music process, right? Like take us with you into the studio. Take us with you, you know, when you're doing a sound check. Take us with you when you're on your way to a meeting or a show or something. Like there's always a way to comfortably give your fans more insight into you and who you are. And also apologies to everyone for the smoke alarm beep. Maintenance will not come and fix it, but
you know, there's also an art, like we've seen the popularity of like mystery and going on a hiatus and not being like any type of tuned into social media, and that works for some artists. Like that's great. But then, you know, especially as somebody that works in marketing, you got to figure out, okay, so what exactly do I have to do when I know I won't have any artist involvement? And I have to curate a conversation and figure out what that conversation looks like without having anything there. No music, no, you know, social media posts from the artists themselves. Like you have to find a way out of kind of no way when it comes to that. So if that's your brand, cool. Like you want to be not mysterious, but you want to be private and everyone respects that. It's just like, as a marketer, you got to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to do about that? There's different avenues. You can tap in with so many different things to help with that. But you have to figure out what works for that artist. And it's not a cookie cutter kind of situation for every artist. You gotta switch it up because it's not gonna work for this artist versus that one. So
Yeah, and that's definitely so relatable in catalog world, because I feel like right now a lot of the artists are focused on their new music that they don't really want to promote the catalog. They don't want to go back, and they may think that their debut album was the worst thing, but everyone thinks it's a classic. So like there's a lot of different ways how you have to, you know, still give the fans what they want. But if the artist doesn't want to participate, so be it. Like you still have to kind of, you know, be that marketer to, you know, still relate to the fans and kind of give them what they want.
Michelle, I have a question for you.
Yeah, of
How
course.
has TikTok changed what you're doing with catalog music? Because the shit that pops off on TikTok.
I would say TikTok has definitely helped like me and my team go from being proactive to being super reactive. So like before we're like, okay, well, we have 6 months into this anniversary, but then, you know, tomorrow, like, you know, a song can go off crazy on TikTok. So it's like, okay, well now what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to make this resurgence last? Like, how are we going to make it more than just a moment and kind of like give the fans to kind of keep it going on forever? Like, you know, is there a lyric video that we can put out? Like, you know, for example, like Meghan Trainor, she never put out her video for Tidal. 6 years later, it goes off on TikTok. So now we're like, okay, let's put out the video. So then she, you know, have new content, give her something to talk about. So I think it really has taught, you know, people to really be like more reactive on things instead of, you know, having a plan and, you know, going for it.
Yes. All right, guys. I know we could talk about this all day, but we got to move on to the next question. So on the other side, what are some of the biggest marketing challenges that artists face today?
Oh, I mean, I think the marketing challenge is that they are now responsible for their marketing. I think when the music industry was set up, they did not have to be their own salesman as much. They were more the product versus like the sort of mastermind thing. I know Chelsea Cutler posted that really long and beautiful post about how she doesn't want to feel like an influencer. She wants to feel like an artist. She came here to make art. And I get that. And I super respect it. And I think it's our job to create, you know, social media presences that serve our artists versus serve what will grow on social the fastest. Because if you're not, you know, creating a social media presence that's true to your artist, you're already screwed. Because all of the content's going to be like pulling teeth. You can see it in their little eyes on your little phone every time I'm scrolling, and I can see when someone basically had to hold a gun to an artist to make this TikTok. I can see it. And that balance is the hardest part.
Yeah, kind of piggyback off of that. I feel like the biggest roadblock or like obstacle that artists face is kind of themselves. I feel like most artists are their own worst enemy. And although you want to feel like an artist, you know, times are changing, and you being a really good artist requires you promoting your music in somewhat way, shape, or form. you know? And I think that's why you need to find the balance of what is your artist already doing and what can you do to help promote it? And everything is just an amplification process of like, this is how we're just going to go up. I don't want you to do anything more, anything less than you already do, but this is how I'm going to help you. And I think once you get your artist out of that place of like, you know, if I get on TikTok, I have to dance. And if I get on this, I got to do this. If you can help them see that there's more options and more opportunities other than what's already been presented, I think finding that balance is really helpful. But yeah, the biggest challenge is getting them out of their own head and saying, look, there's options for you. There's so much you can do. Let's figure out what you want.
Yeah, the way that I tend to like, the one thing that I've had a lot of success with is being like, I get that you're an artist and you're coming at this from an artist perspective. I'm like, raise your hand if you've had an argument with an artist about how their feed looks. As if it matters, as if it really matters. But to them, it does. They're an artist. They're making art. They're like, why don't you appreciate my art? I put a lot of thought into this and it looks beautiful. And we're like, thanks, it doesn't work. So I think being sensitive and trying to create like a way that doing the things we want can feel like an artistic expression for them is like really, at least my favorite way to do it.
It's so hard to be an unbound creative. It's so hard to be like an unbound artist when you know you have to get things done. So I know I have to promote my song, and now I have to think about the ways that feel the most natural to me. And that might not be TikTok. And that's just, you know, that kind of goes back, okay, what's the roadblock? What's the process? And just really figuring out, okay, cool, like what it is that works. And that takes so much trial and error. Like artists figure that out years down the line, but it is there. And you know, oversaturation, cutting through the noise is very possible when you are 110% yourself in what you do.
I literally was just about to talk about like oversaturation is the issue right here, because yeah, you can have a bomb campaign and it looks great and it hits who it needs to hit, but like it will get cluttered out because no one has the attention span at all anymore. I know I don't. Like I'll scroll real quick and it's just how we've all come about. So it's figuring out like what is really going to stick. And sometimes I think we overthink it as well, because like bringing it back to TikTok, and I know I speak on it a lot, but you can have like the most random trend to a song that don't even match, and that's the thing that goes viral, and that's the thing that everybody likes because it's like hella weird, right? And I think as even marketers, but also artists are just like, okay, well, I think this dance trend is going to go really well with the sound, and that might not be the case. It's like trying to do almost everything. You may want to do a dance trend with it. You may want to do some beauty stuff. You may want to do some travel stuff with it. Like you have to figure out all the different avenues you can take and be like, all right, this one looks like it's popping off a little more. I'll focus more of my energy over there rather than focusing on what I initially thought was going to be good. So yeah, I think people pick and choose. Obviously there's a method to it, but people pick and choose what they want to trend and what they really want to talk about and what they're, you know, they stand. So it's like, don't be too hard on yourself if it's not going the way that you think it is, that it's supposed to. And just keep pushing it out, like put out whatever you need to put out and put something random to it and see if it does what it got to do. So
yeah, definitely to piggyback off of that, like I think another challenge is definitely like the viral hype of everything. So it's like we were just talking about earlier, like how do we know how to cut through the noise as a marketer when something else is going to be the thing that is going crazy? Like how do we know that like we're measuring the success the proper way when, you know, people can just have a moment on TikTok and then no one really still knows who they are? So I think like that's definitely like a challenge that as like marketers, like we definitely have to learn how to balance.
Yeah, I think the trick is to like really focus in at the beginning of the strategy. And I know sometimes like timelines and just like the overall hype around the artist and the project sometimes don't always permit us to like we have to move in haste, right? But like I really do my best to really fine tune the strategy, because a big part of that is figuring out what's authentic to this artist, not just like what are these bullet points we need to hit because these are the things that work right now. Because you could have an artist, and I think again going back to the figuring out how to cut through the noise, if that artist has a very specific audience, then there's going to be very specific things that makes that audience tick, right? And so I think sometimes again you do have to balance it out, because it's like we do need to have presence on certain platforms and do the things, but I think sometimes I just step outside of the things I feel like we need to do and like look at like, okay, what works for this artist, even if it's something that like is maybe outdated, like it's not what everybody's doing, but again, that could be a noise cutter because everyone's running around over there, and then it's like, okay, we do this one thing very differently, and then all our other stuff gets attention, the regular like check off the box thing. So I think it's, again, a lot of trial and error, because that's marketing. I feel like nobody talks about that. But like everybody's like, ooh, great marketing, or ooh, we love their marketing. And it's like, do you know we tried 52 things to get to this one moment that you love? And now you're seeing all the other things we've been trying to push to you for months because this one thing finally worked. And so again, it's a process. And I love conversations like these because other up and coming executives and as well as artists need to understand that, because a lot of artists think that it's very plug and play and like, okay, why isn't my stuff moving? And it's like, this is strategy. This is process. This is testing. Like we are basically chemists, and like we're trying to figure out how to make gold out of these different elements that you got and make you feel comfortable while you're doing it and not freak out. So it's a lot of moving pieces, and like, yeah, just to echo everything everyone said, like it's a process.
I think the best, some of the best advice I've ever received in marketing is that it is intuitive. Like you have to feel it at the end of the day, and there's so many things that you can back, and just, yeah, I kind of just wanted to say that like marketing is intuitive, and trust that.
Yeah, I think especially now because TikTok is, everyone's like, how do you hack the algorithm? And oh my gosh, it's a mystery. And really it's, you have to tell a story. A story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that's basically it. There are tips and tricks and things that we can do. But in terms of like what the artist has to do, it's just tell a story. And not every story is gonna, not every story is the biggest and best story in the world, but it's worth, sharing because it's theirs. Another like challenge that I feel like as a industry we're facing is that along with the conversation about industry plans, it's funny that this is a conversation in a time when like I don't super believe the industry can successfully plan a lot anymore. We've got a few breakthrough artists a year, but there is not an amount of money that you can pour into a TikTok campaign that will make your record a hit. There is not. You can't force people. It's the most democratic the music industry has ever been. Audiences are absolutely in control. And it's thrown a lot of this into a state of like disarray, because a lot of us have bosses or clients or people we have to explain why we did 50 things and it didn't work. And sometimes that answer is people don't like your product. And the way that I see out of that is, using TikTok as like a test, like what's the word for it? Like a focus group test to see how people are reacting to your music. That said, that's not a strategy for everyone. And the outcome that's going to have on the music industry and albums as a concept and singles, it's all TBD. But man, it really made it easy to tell who is trying to take advantage of artists, because they lie the loudest about being able to make shit happen on TikTok. The loudest.
Yeah.
Thank you, Helen.
I wonder,
All right,
like,
go ahead. You can.
I was saying, I wonder too, like, again, how much energy are we being allowed to put into who we're talking to? Because it's always like, oh, put it on TikTok, make a TikTok. Can we do stuff on TikTok? And it's like, okay, cool. But who is your fan? Like, who is this even for? Like, if we put it on TikTok is huge. There's like millions of things on TikTok. So it's almost like that quote, like if a tree drops in a forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Like, we don't know. Like, we have to actually be like, well, what part of TikTok are we going to? Who is your fan? How old are they? What do they like? Where do they consume? Because all these artists are different. And like, yes, you want to have presence on TikTok, but TikTok may not be your strongest platform. Like, it may be Instagram, shucks, it may be Reddit. Like, because I think I've had the opportunity, like outside of music, to deal with a bunch of different types of clients, I've realized how nuanced, like in general, marketing and branding is. And I think, again, going back to like what cuts through the noise, I think sometimes it's something totally left. Sometimes it's an artist actually saying, hey, I want to create my own website and like, yeah, everybody come here and get my stuff, or I want to make a Discord, or, you know, whatever. But you really have to consider that, like, everyone's not your audience. Like, I don't care what anyone says, everyone's not your audience. Yes, make it available to everyone just in case they are your audience, but like really start to narrow it down, especially if you're an emerging artist, because you will exhaust yourself and the budget that you do have trying to be everywhere, doing everything, dropping things into the abyss. Why isn't this working? And it's like your fans are somewhere nowhere near there on the other side of the digital world, waiting for what you have prepared, but you're not reaching them because you're busy trying to like stand out and like, and be a, you know, be a small fish in this big pond. And it's like, you could totally be a big fish in a smaller pond and then, you know, blow up. So that's my take on that.
Thank you, Junae. That was a great point. So we are going to shift gears a little bit in the conversation, everyone. And the next question is, how can women in music support and uplift each other? How can we reach back and include other women in the come
up? Pay them.
Thank you, for real.
That's a start.
And
yeah, because you can have all, I mean, to build on the pay, it's like having those conversations about pay, because I think a lot of times you don't, as somebody that just started off in the industry, I could have walked around and been like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm really worth. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be asking for, and should I be asking for a lot more? But like, the reason why I started to demand more is because I had conversations with people that were older than me and women. They're just like, no, you need to put your foot down and ask for what you deserve.
Everybody else
X, Y, and Z. You did X, Y, and Z. You have that right to ask for whatever you need. So it's from my experience, I had several women that I've talked to one-on-one that was just like, yeah, well, this is what you need to do. And it's transparency at the end of the day that everybody needs. There's no need to keep your mouth shut or not really talk about numbers because it's not, you know, right to do in the corporate world. Like, nah, we're doing that. I'll sing like a canary if I need to.
Like, there should be no reason that, like, you know, salary Google Sheets are being circulated within the industry, right? Like, there's no reason for that. Like, have a conversation, and having the openness, the freedom to be able to have conversations with your peers about like how much you're making, is just going to help grow the next people after that. And another thing I would say is just being intentional and proactive about, you know, the opportunities that do come your way to put other women on. You know, so much about, you know, at least personally, like, I got here like by just like the amazing people that have thrown opportunities my way and just building. So, you know, build laterally, build with the ones under you, and always just keep your eye out for an opportunity, because like small connections turn into big, you know, relationships, things down the line.
Yeah, I think transparency, you know, like everyone said, and also being a resource, right? Like, my rule of thumb is to take any experience that I hated or didn't like or didn't thoroughly enjoy on my way to where I am now, or even something I may experience now, and do the opposite of that. And just be a resource. Like, whatever you didn't have on your way up, be that to someone else. Whatever you wish you had, try and be that to someone else. And if you're newer trying to get in, like, you know, have conversations. Like, everybody's not going to maybe answer all your questions or be able to like have time to really like walk you through everything. But, you know, for a long time, I don't think I've had a mentor, but I've had people who have lended me a mentoring ear or conversation. It's like, when you get those gems, grab them up, you know what I mean? And like, also see what you can offer to someone. Like, you know, a lot of times with people being so busy and stuff, a way to cut through the noise, again, right, with our favorite phrase of the day, is to actually also be like, hey, like, express some interest in something that they're doing, or ask them if they maybe need help with something, or just plain out ask. I think you don't know if you don't ask, maybe they're not the person, but maybe they can refer you to a person. And I think like laterally, like, put your people on. Like, when I get a new project, my first go-to outside of like my internal staff is like, okay, who do I know that I can slide this bag to? Like, who do I know that I can like connect this opportunity for? If I can't do something, I'm like, cool, what's Olivia, what you got going on? Like, Michelle, what you got going on? You know what I mean? And passing it along. Like, we lose nothing by paying things forward. And I think done are the days of like the nice, nasty, like competition. Like, we've definitely like put our foot kick the doors open, spread, we're making room. So like, let's just keep building on that. And women, I think we have a very, peer-to-peer is great too. And like when men actually like support us as well. But I think there's something really powerful about like the sisterhood within the industry, because again, like, you don't think it means a lot, but it means a lot to have that direct referral to HR versus like combing through Indeed and praying for a miracle. Like, again, one connection, one text message, one email, one like, oh, we're at the same event. Oh, meet this person, follow this person on Instagram, goes such a long way. And I think that, for me, it's been invaluable. Like, there's people in this industry who helped me craft my first resume, to get my first industry internship, to get my jobs, and then start a company. Like, that stuff is invaluable. And I think that we got to lean into it more. I don't think it's good enough for us to like, woo, I know it's a lot of work to get your gig, right? To get in a space where you're comfortable and you're like, woo, I can breathe. Like, kind of can breathe, sis, but also like, okay, now who else can I help? Like, that's the only way I think to like break the cycle.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to speak to people. Like, I think we're all over this catty industry thing, like, so-and-so is doing X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. Like, we're all peers. We're all doing stuff that like, we're making stuff happen. Like, I honestly like met Olivia at a pool in LA and I was like, you look familiar. So now here I am like 6 months later. So like, just don't be afraid to speak to people, and don't like be afraid to like, be that person for someone. Like, for me, I would always say like, I never really had a mentor in the industry growing up. Like, I kind of just figured things out by myself, but like get a mentor, like get someone who you can rely on, someone older, someone who's done this before. So then like you can ask all the right questions. Like, we don't want to be like not paid as much. We don't want to be, in the same like coordinator position for 5 years, because like we deserve to be leveled up more. So, speak up to your boss, speak up to your peers, and speak up to like, people above you. So just don't be afraid.
For me, I set a timeline of like when I wanted things to shift from day one. And one great thing though, like when I had my first interview in radio, they told me from day one, they were like, you won't be in this position for more than 1.5 years. And if you are, then you're doing something wrong. So start preparing for what's next, learn what you got to learn right here, and start doing what you got to do. So that like set the tone of like, okay, well, I know when I need to shift. And if I don't get something by this certain time, then I got to do what I got to do, or vocalize like, hey, something needs to be changed, right? Another thing when it comes to like the people that you have in your circle, make sure that the synergy is right and the energy overall is good, because not that there's fake connections out here, but then some people can be very fake. And it's like, why would you waste your time on someone that is one-sided and not giving you what you properly need? Whether that be like a connection with another person, whether that be just like one-on-one friendship, like there's no need to waste your time on people just because they have a certain role or they work at this specific company. Scratch all of that. It really doesn't matter that much. You'll find your people the way you need to find them, and just do it in an authentic way. You don't have to keep forcing things just because somebody got a specific role or they work here and they know this person. Like, it really, really does not matter, because guess what? In a year's time, you can be that same type of person where it's like, oh, well, I have that role, so why would it have mattered from a year ago? Literally just keep the right people around you, whether they work in sports or they are a yoga instructor, like whatever it is that they do, make sure the people that you got with you are good people. That's it.
Yeah, it's a
Just to add on to just to add on to, not forcing it. It's okay to reach out to somebody and not necessarily knowing what you have to offer yet, because a lot of the times we're in the learning stage for a long time. Just reach out to somebody, let somebody know, I appreciate what you're doing. What you're doing is amazing. That goes such a long way, especially like as women, like letting each other know, we're reminding each other like, we're doing great, like we're doing fine, and we're all doing this together. That goes such a long way, because then you don't feel so alone. And, it really is a community between all the women in the, industry. Like, reach out, say thank you, say I appreciate you. And, when you do have something to offer, follow up again and be like, hey, like, this is what we said last time. This is what I said last time. This is where I am now. And, if there's no opportunity, reach out the third time, fourth time, they might block you, but it's okay. Don't stop, be genuine.
Yeah, I think be a person. Like, whenever anyone asks me like, oh, how do I connect with people, or how do I find a mentor? Any of those questions is literally like, be a human being. Like, tell someone happy birthday when it's their birthday. If you like their shoes in their picture, let them know. If you think their dog is cute, let them know. And again, not in a fake way. Like, you want to be very authentic, and like also keep in mind, you're not going to mesh with everyone. Like, everyone's just not your people. And it doesn't mean that they're a bad person, you're a bad person, but like, everybody's not going to be like your bestie, and they don't have to be. Like, it's just a respect thing. And then again, like, you'll find your people organically as long as you're being yourself. Someone also said in the comments like that they don't really have any people who work in music in the area. And I'm like, use the internet. Like, we got the internet, honey. So good thing. Doesn't matter if you live on Mars. If you got Wi-Fi, you can connect with people. I have met so many wonderful people through the internet, y'all. And again, not everybody. Now, there's some people who are a little strange, right? So use discernment. But for the most part, people are pretty cool on the internet, and it's super cool to, connect with people. And then maybe y'all meet up at your favorite music festival, or your, a conference or an event or a concert, like anything. But like, definitely like organically connect on the internet. And I think the internet's an easier way for some people to make friends, because like, you may not be the outgoing person to go to an event, or you may not be comfortable going to an event by yourself. And so like, again, it's easy and be a person. Like, don't tweet people like, hey, blah, 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 music questions, right? Because another thing, social media, me personally, is my personal social media. So if I'm talking about like vanilla cupcakes, if you don't have nothing to say about the cupcakes, right, just keep scrolling past me, right? But like, if you do, cool. But like, don't pester people either, because you got to understand too, on social media, sometimes it's people's leisure. Sometimes it's the first breath they took in a day outside of work. And like, everybody's not the I'm on 24/7 thinking about music and marketing way. And again, there's people who I connected with over nonsense, pure nonsense, that like I've done business with. I would go out with if they come to town. I'll refer for a job. Like, just be a person.
I want to add on that. I think a lot of people today, especially on social media, they feel as if working in the industry is their only identity. And it's like, no, it's not. No, it's not
a personality trait. It's just not.
It's really not. Like, yo, it's a great aspect. Don't get me wrong. That's amazing what you do. But like, what else? You go for bike rides? Yeah, me too. Mm-hmm. Oh, you like to paint? Oh, cool. Like, I'm not impressed like that you work in the industry. Like, no one should really be so impressed to the point where it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna get on my knees and praise you. Like, no, that's not the energy. We're not giving that out. No. We're not doing it.
Just humans who make incredible things happen in music. Like, there's nothing. And I think why people sometimes are hesitant too is because there are a sector of people who do that high and mighty thing. Like, oh, I'm untouchable because I work on artists. Like, please move those people out of your eye view. Those are not the people you want to connect with. There's plenty of people who remember that we still put our pants legs on one leg at a time. Hopefully they button up that day, right? There's still those of us who remember that we are human beings and we eat food when we remember to eat. Like, it's just like, it's a whole thing. I agree, Gabriella.
I literally saw
I have two internet friends in the chat. I just have to say, I have two girls who I met when I was 15 running a fan account in Florida who are online. One of them works at Skims now in LA, and the other one is Rafi from Triller. So like, and we were nobody. Like, we were not, we had the acne, we were ugly, we were like posting emo lyrics. It was not a good time, but they've been like my best friends for, years and years and years. That community will always be there. And then my answer to the like, how can we support other women in music thing is that depression and anxiety are statistically way more common in women. And we work in an industry that is constantly like, hey, why aren't you paying attention to me? Why didn't you answer my text in 20 minutes? Oh my God, did you go to a movie? How dare you? You let down your artists. The company is in shambles. There's a lot of pressure, and it tells us we're worthless a lot. I know it doesn't feel like that. We get a lot of rejection, a lot of that. Being able to talk kind of openly with each other, and also picking up each other's slack, because, mental health awareness is one thing, but it's different when someone texts you like, I need you to cover my projects today. I can't get out of bed. And I think the most important thing you can do is be like, yeah, if you have the capacity to help someone who is struggling, and you can, that sets the precedent that they can come to you for help, real help, not just, oh, sucks, but like real help, and you will give it. There are so many women at my company, and men, but women, who really let me struggle, not like let me struggle, but knew I wasn't, at my best, didn't judge me for it, supported me, and was like, I figured something was up, but I knew you'd figure it out. I trusted you. And that was so important to me.
I think also having the ability to let people know the bad news is some of the best advice I've received, like, ever. And bad news doesn't necessarily have to be bad news. Bad news can just be like, I cannot deliver this now, but I can deliver this now, then, and just that reframing of like how I'm thinking, not trying to take so much accountability in terms of, okay, like, am I set up to actually deliver this properly? And taking a step back and being like, hey, no, but yes, at this point.
Yeah, my boss at Columbia told me something like my first few days on the job that I will never forget. I was getting like a second phone and like all this stuff is happening. I'm like, woo, woo. And like we worked in like a really like prominent department and we're like doing all these things. He's like, yeah, so we don't work at the ER. And I was like, what? And he's like, we don't work at the ER. He was like, so nothing's an emergency unless it's an emergency. He was like, and to be honest with you, if it's an emergency, I'll let you know. He was like, don't let people, over urgency everything with you. Don't let them utilize your off time. Like when you clock out, you clock out. Of course, occasionally there will be things that you need to handle, but he was like, do not get into that pattern. And I think for some people, he set the tone for me. So I think for some people that are kind of stuck in that hamster wheel of like, oh, I'm on 24/7 today, Sunday, Saturday, it doesn't matter, text, email, call, whatever. I'm a little off-putting because I'm like, yeah, no. I'll make sure everything is done before I step out. If it's an emergency, I'm always available, but like I set boundaries with my time, with myself, with my peers. And then again, having that open communication. So when I am in a space where I can't do something, it's like being open to like who I can lean on. And then again, like running my own company, I'm very open with my staff about that. It's like, listen, you're not always going to be on, and that's okay. Just communicate as much as you can communicate. Let's communicate. And like I tell anyone entering this business or in the business, like, listen, we don't work in the ER. I know we're all passionate. Please don't get me wrong. I'm absolutely the one who's going to be up at 3 a.m. making sure this goes right. But in the same breath, I'm not going to overstress myself. Like have a limit and a ceiling for yourself, because again, we're changing lives. We're not saving them. Like no one is going to die, God forbid, if a post doesn't go up, if something is 3 minutes late. Now, granted, sometimes I know it's an album or something like that's that's a little different. But in general, don't put that pressure or try not to put that pressure on yourself. Because like you said, Helen, there's already all this pressure being in this industry. There's so much pressure to excel, succeed, get accolades, all this stuff. And then there's also pressure because you're a woman and because we have to walk into rooms certain ways and because sometimes we have to overassert ourselves. And there's still some of this for whatever reason, gender weird things going on. Sometimes it's from other women, right? Unfortunately. And so again, this is not Grey's Anatomy. So, set those boundaries for yourself and others and just stand on them.
Yes.
Yeah, you always just have to remember it's entertainment. It's supposed to be fun, period.
Thank you guys. And we have gotten to the point where it's time for the last question. So if everyone could give one gem, one piece of advice to young women who want to be in your shoes, who are striving to be where you're at right now, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to them?
If you would be happy doing anything else, please go do anything else. Any other thing at all, go do that. If that is not a good enough for you, if you really want to do it, then then yeah, come hang out. But you will hate your life if you do not love this. If I did not love this, I would have quit, like.
I agree.
Junae, go ahead.
I'm still thinking of my answer. I'm sorry, y'all.
No worries, Shell, you can go ahead.
I think mine would be to really just curate your own career path. You don't have to follow what everybody else is doing, because I think a lot of times whether it's people that are on the same level as you or above, like you're really like looking around, and you really need to stop doing that. You have to really focus on like what is your vibe and what you got to do for yourself and what works for you, because what the next person did might not be vibing for you at all. Like that might not be something that works out for you, and you can't force it. You can't do any of that. You really have to curate your own thing, whether that means, you know, whether you start at a major label or you start at, you know, an indie, like it doesn't matter. As long as you're working hard and showing your creativity and showing that you want to be here, that's what matters. So don't think, oh, big brand names, I got to go for that, you know, big this, big that. It's really not that serious. You can make your way up there if that's what you want, but it's not, you don't have to do that from jump. If you do, great, applaud. You like, that's amazing, but don't be so hard on yourself feeling like you need to be doing X, Y, and Z before you're 25. You got to be CEO before you're 25. Like if that's the case, great. Like shout out to you for doing that, but you don't have to go so hard like that. So
Yeah.
Okay, I figured it out. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So I would say, honestly, like trusting your gut, like as simple as it is, like trust your gut. You are the only person in the world that thinks like you, and that is such a blessing. And everything that you do, just have that reflect yourself. It's okay if you don't know what you want to do. It's okay if you don't know what you're going, but listen to your gut. And in everything you do, like you will know if it feels right. Like listen to your gut. Does this feel right for me? Yes or no? And that will just guide your path. You don't, like, I thought I was going to be a digital marketer. I was like hardcore ad girl. Like all my internships were in media buying. And I was like, what is this? But no, like I just kept following my gut. And as an innate creative, it came out, and, you know, my path is created. So we're still trying to figure it out, but there's nothing more powerful than trusting your gut. It simply cannot be replicated. And there's really nothing more powerful than something that you have that nobody else has in the world.
Yeah, mine would definitely be again, back to my last point, is definitely speak up. Like in my past roles, I always made up excuses of like, why not speak up? Like I was the coordinator, like these people have been here for so much longer, or like, you know, I don't have as much experience. But like once I started to actually like be a voice and like be a person, like people really, you know, value your opinion. And a lot of the people who may have been doing this role for like 10 to 15 years, like they've been doing it for 10 to 15 years. Like there's so many other new ways to do marketing, to do music, to put artists on. So like, don't be afraid to like, you know, be that voice in the room, be the new person in the room to bring these ideas, because, you know, if you like, what is the saying? A closed mouth is not going to get fed. So like I said, yeah, just speak up.
Yes, Shelly. Junae, did you go?
Yeah, so I did not. I want to say to women looking to be in music marketing, color outside the lines. Even when people give you pushback on it, nothing works until it does, right? I think we've seen time and time again, like the new thing, and it's difficult to be the new thing. It's difficult to do something differently until it works, and then everybody is running to do that thing. There's no linear path to success. Like there's going to be ups, downs, back up again, off to the side, down again. But I think the people who win are the ones that don't give up. And I know that sounds super generic, but it's not. And I'm really saying this from like pure experience, from experiencing like lows. And you're like, is this something that I want to be doing? To waking up the next morning and being like, I love this. Like, I can't not do it. That's how much I'm into it. I would say also just remember there are no rules in marketing. Like there's tactics and there's a couple of like blueprints, but there's no rules. I think that's the fun part of it. This is probably the most fun industry there is. And never stop learning, because another thing I was told earlier in my career was good ideas come from anywhere. Go outside, right? Like go watch something that has nothing to do with music, that has nothing to do with your clients, that has nothing to do, go get your hands dirty, cook something, right? Like go for a walk, like all those things. People are like, what do you do when you don't feel creative? I go outside. I go do something that has nothing to do with any of this. And usually it comes back. My last point would be like, if you're in the room, you're supposed to be there. I don't care if you snuck up in there. If you make it into the room, you're supposed to be there. And so walk, talk, sit up straight, just like you're supposed to be there because you are. There's something either you're supposed to contribute to the room because you are you and you're always contributing, or at the very least, it's something you're supposed to gain from that. So, walk around like you're that girl because you already are, even if you're still stepping into the full, silhouette of it, like you're already you. It's just about building up into the maximum version of you. So I would say those are things I would say to women who are looking to be in marketing or who already are.
Yes, thank you all.
Use as many exclamation points as you fucking want in emails. No one
Right,
cares.
and smiley faces and all of that, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do not make
Yes.
me feel bad.
Guys.
Sounds like text.
We're all marketers, so you guys will chat forever, but we gotta wrap it up. Panelists, if you could all just smile real quick, we're gonna take a quick photo because we're all about content over here. All right, we're
The
good.
idea of doing that with 300 people watching.
Judgment-free zone. They came to watch marketing. That's marketing in action. So you're welcome, everybody. See you all on Instagram, Amethyst Collab. That's how you spell amethyst. If you don't know, go find us. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube. We will have this panel up on YouTube, and we have a ton more exclusive interviews. We have an interview with Gabby Peloso, the president of Alamo or of Asylum Records, up right now that you guys can go watch, and many other things. So go check out our YouTube. Alexi's dropped it in the chat a couple times. Go connect with everybody else. And thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Hit me up as well. I would love to know if you guys enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Olivia.
Bye, everyone.